Ichimbusa Nanokans, good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the regular tribal council meeting of May 8th, 2024 to order. Secretary, could we have a roll call, please?
Clay Dumont,
Gita.
Gail Hatcher,
Gita.
Roberta Frost here, Brandy Hatcher,
Here.
Harry Chalktu,
Here.
Ellsworth Lang,
Here.
Natalie Ball,
Here.
Jeannie McNair,
Here.
Rose Treetop. Les Anderson is excused.
Okay, we have a quorum. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can do an invocation today, see if I can practice. So Ms. Georgine, if you're listening, criticism is accepted. Thank you. Sepkecha, Gamokamps, Sepkecha, Tunkani Muklux, Sepkecha, Gaakani, Sepkecha, Giok, Nanokan, Skida, Genwaitis, Sepkecha, Shaota Ok, Nanokans, Auxigni, Choi Moadakni, Choi Numu, Satwile Knuts, Saiwaka, Not Nanokans, Saamakski, Kadak, Kadak. So I said, thank you, Ancient of the Ancients. Thank you, ancestors. Thank you, ancestors of long ago. Thank you for everyone here. Thank you for making us Klamath, Modoc, and Yehuskin. Please help us. Please help us to remember we are all relatives. Truly, truly. Okay, any changes to the agenda? I have one if others don't.
Sorry. No, I was, didn't have a paper.
Okay. Secretary, under Chairman's report, I'd like to add the Molly from Denali contract. Anybody else? All right. Any objections to approving the, yes, go ahead.
I do
Secretary.
have one.
Okay.
We had a request for a job description from the Constitution Committee that I need to bring before the council,
So do you want to put that under Secretary's report?
please.
Okay. You want to make it D?
Yes.
Any other additions? Any objections to approving the agenda as amended? Okay, hearing none, we have an agenda and we are ready for you, General Manager Lopez.
Thank you, Chairman. Let me see if I can. So thank you, Council, for taking the time to listen to my presentation. And just as a reminder, this is covering March and April, and specifically updates from program directors. And as you know, next month will be an update from my office as General Manager. I have highlighted some areas that I thought were important to highlight for the Tribal Council. I think the entire report is informative. So please stop me, Chairman, help me, because I don't see the little hands going up. If you have any questions, please feel free to interrupt me. The first update is from the Ombudsman Department, and I actually included, I'm not very good at the millimeters and the grams, I suppose. So I added, it's 6.6 inches and about 0.092 pounds of the fish that are going to be, that we're talking about here. The I think it was 817 juvenile suckers that were processed with the average length about 6.6 inches. And so I just wanted to make sure that the council and the tribal members are aware that that is work that continues to take place, very important work. Jeez. All right. I'll do it this way. Yeah, I do. So that we can do like karaoke. So anyway, Chairman, I wanted to make sure in council that you were aware that that work continues to take place, and there's some obviously a lot of very important work happening and really appreciate the staff that are the experts in that area. The chairman,
George, before you leave there, 4 lines down from the bottom of the paragraph, what is electrofishing? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay.
I
I'm
thought it
just
was like
curious.
tagging them or something of the sort, but it,
Oh,
for what? Yeah, but por qué? So they come up?
to stun them so they can tag them.
So they're like, stun them and then grab them?
Okay.
Poor things.
All right. Thanks.
And then maybe if there's someone from Amodat that could clarify that as we're going along. The water quality team continues to do the sampling of the different bodies of water. We did recently have a procurement meeting, we suppose, with the I'm forgetting her name. Teresa. I think her name is Teresa, the chemist, in regards to how they can better streamline the procurement of the different supplies. So she's working with finance to make sure that they have the ability to purchase from the lab that they recommend purchasing from because of the quality of the material, Ms. Secretary.
I was wondering with that, I would be curious to know, with the water quality testing, whether or not, we're improving, because I've never seen approving the water quality, because we've stopped, a lot of irrigation. So I would assume that the quality of water that they're testing has been improving.
Oh, improving. I'm sorry. I thought you were
Uh,
saying approving. I'm
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I've never seen results of the
Oh.
tests or comparisons. And I don't know if you received those and they're just not included.
No, I do not receive those.
So that would be of interest, even if it's just, I don't expect it to maybe improve on a monthly basis or a bi-monthly basis, but it would be interesting to see that and see what the results of like stopping irrigation or restoration activities.
Yeah.
What those are.
Absolutely. And I did see the sentence right there where you says where they say the water quality sampling continues to assess long-term trends and changes. But I'd be happy to ask that they submit potentially a report to see what kind of changes, if there are any, on improvements. I know I did ask them, and I believe the chairman agreed as well, that they're going to go back out to Hagelstein and retest that body of water there, since they're not doing overnight camping. Even though when I'm driving to work every morning, I do see quite a few cars out there. They're not like they were before, but I'm pretty positive that they've spent the night there, because I doubt that they started looking like that at 7:30 in the morning. So you might, Chairman, bring that up to the county again, but I do believe that there are people overnight camping there.
Okay. Thanks for the heads up.
Culture and heritage. I know that I believe Ms. Rubido is on the Zoom link here. Just want to highlight the fact that they did do their cultural resource technician training. From all indications, it was a very successful training. They had 22 individuals complete the CRT training. So I wanted to highlight that for the Culture and Heritage Department. So good work there. They also did I did not have the opportunity to attend the Schwam ceremony, but from all the information I received back, it seems like people really enjoyed it. It was well put together. Want to thank also Joe, Mike, and Verdella for doing the stick games, and the entire team. So from my understanding, it turned out very well, and they did a nice job. So thank you for that. The other area that I wanted to highlight are I highlighted, Chairman, because I know we had a real brief conversation about Petroglyph Point at the lava beds. And to me, that's really, hopefully that's going to happen and it's going to improve that area. My family and I go out there a couple times a year, and it's sad to see the damage that's taking place to the Petroglyph Point. And so I'm hoping that they're able to improve that and really increase the experience for visitors there. But it's a really beautiful place.
Yeah, and I wanted to thank and acknowledge Director Rubido and her team for all the work that they're doing, participating in those discussions out there about how to better protect the site, but also to put interpretive signage up so that the Klamath tribe's presence is front and center, and that when visitors come, they have an appreciation of where they are. and understand the context of the place for how to behave there, hopefully. So I think they spent a day and a half a couple weeks ago working on this. So thank you to Culture and Heritage Department. And Councilman Choctaw, did you have a hand up?
Yes, I did. I suggest everybody go out and have a look at Petroglyph Point because there's petroglyphs on both sides of both land features there. It's not just where the fence is at. It's all the way around the other side. To protect that fully, you're going to need massive fences to go around all of it. Last time there was some destruction out there, they related it to the kids at school. Kids were going out there in the evening and drinking and shooting and causing havoc around that fence. Well, it's gonna take a lot of investment to actually protect that. You got to go all the way around both land features because there's petroglyphs on both sides. Just an FYI, I suggest everybody get out and get a look at it, have a look at it, know what you're trying to protect because it's pretty extensive, really.
Thank you for that, council member. And now you got my curiosity. Maybe I will go back out there and because I just looked at what was behind the fence. I also highlighted, Chairman, the site protection fuels reduction work that took place a couple weekends ago, and that's created a body of work here for the administration in regards from finance, HR, down through the Natural Resources Department and the Fire Management Program. So they did go out, they being Tyler, Tim, Clarence, and the new gentleman, which I'm forgetting his name, Tanea's husband, Gus. Hi, Steve. Went out and they helped create, I guess, protection around sites as the fire burns through. So those sites will be protected. Really, really good work. The back end of the work is the policy, making sure that and thank you, Tribal Council, for approving the exception to the policy for this last weekend. I understand that Tim and Steve and Laurel are working on a amendment to the personnel policy to make sure we can continue to do this work. And it all revolves around accessibility to overtime, hazard pay, different forms of paying folks that are actually out there in some danger when they're around the fires. So it's good work, but there is some work to do on the administrative end, and we're hopefully going to get that done as soon as possible.
And Mr. General Manager, I'm sorry to keep interrupting you, but this is an important one as well. These departments being able to work together so well to make sure that not only the fire is doing what it's supposed to be doing, but that our cultural sites is protected is such a wonderful change. And I know that we're going to institutionalize it going forward. I got 3 or 4 calls when the lightning fire started saying, are they going to burn over our sites again? And I said, no, it's not going to happen this time. Our people are on top of it. And so I just wanted to say congratulations and thank you for that.
And Steve is here because he's he's going to give an update on his department. So if that's okay, and I know that secretary is looking at me because I'm taking up too much time again here, so I'm going to rush it here real quick. I'll skip to page 10.
We have a short agenda today, and this is important. So
You can go on for hours like you normally do.
Oh, stop it. The next program that I know that Joe Mike is here, and the reason I asked Joe Mike to be here because oftentimes, almost 95% of the time, I get questions about the energy assistance for tribal members. So I highlighted some of the areas from community services, and if there are questions, I appreciate Joe Mike being here. So as you folks may know, that Sherry has been, as a temporary employee, came out of retirement to help us. Really appreciate that. She's been doing some real great work with our tribal members. The area that I think is important that I wanted to highlight here is that she is working very well, and she does what I call a warm handoff to the Klamath and Lake Community Action Services, which provides energy assistance to community members. She does not just say call, but she actually helps them fill out the application and does really a warm handoff. So I think we can all, not you folks, but the departments could learn from that in regards to how we do a warm handoff, not just transfer the call and say good luck. So I wanted to just thank her for that, and I think that's really good work. but she's eager to get back into retirement. So say again.
I said, that's what our old employees do.
I didn't call her old.
And I'm not saying she's old. I'm just talking about experience.
Seasoned employees.
She's experienced.
Yes, exactly. So she's doing some good work. I really appreciate her, but so thank you for that. And Chairman and Council, I also wanted to highlight the enormous increase. I think it was such a good move to go from the community center to the congregate for the meal sites, and just the timing seems to be working out very well. But these numbers are just fabulous, and I know that Jeannie and I go eat over there at least once a week, and there's always at least I know Jeannie can vouch for this one, right, Jeannie? 25, 30 people there. And as you remember, Chairman, when we were at the community center, if I was there alone. And now at least there's 20 people at the meal site every time, and more, not just 20. I mean, sometimes there's 30. If there's a special event going on, there'd be 30, 40 people there. So that's really nice to see. And they're still working on the deliveries. I did want to highlight one area that I'm going to be working on with Joe, Mike, and staff, and the health department, particularly with Kelly, is trying to identify a more accurate way to receive and get the medical, I'll call it medical clearance. I'm not sure that's the right terminology. So individuals that have meals delivered need to provide a medical clearance, I guess we'll call it, that they're homebound. During COVID, we got I don't want to say lax, because of COVID, we were delivering meals to basically everybody, regardless of that medical clearance. At this point, we met with some of the medical staff and Kelly and Shanda in regards to how we could better make sure that those medical clearances are in fact necessary and accurate. And part of the reason is not because we want to just stop doing home deliveries, but part of the purpose of this funding is that they have socialization, that elders aren't receiving meals and isolating themselves in their homes without having the opportunity to socialize. And socialization, as you know, creates a lot of positive benefits beyond just the meal. So it's without having that proper clearance, it could create some issues with the funding source at some point. Probably unlikely. But the point is that it would be really nice if we could get the tribal elders that can come out to the meal site to come out to the meal site. So we still have a lot of clearances that we're not, and they could be, I have not second guessing the medical staff at all. They could be very legitimate medical clearances, but they also wanted more information in regards to the form. The form is outdated. They wanted some more information in regards to the purpose of the funding and the program. So we're working, Joe and team are working with the health department to try to clarify what that means. Now, this cuts across not only the meal site, it also cuts across to general assistance, and could also cut across some other programs like the RED program. So it's not just the meal site, but we just need to be clear that when we're getting that medical clearance, is that they're confident that that medical clearance is not only necessary, but is actually accurate. Yes, Vice Chair.
I know it's been a while back in community services with the home deliveries. I believe there were 2 cooks, and one of the cooks was helping deliver, and I believe someone out of transportation was also helping to deliver meals. So I guess all in all, my question is, if our numbers are going up in just cooking within the facility for the people that come in, are we staffed well enough?
What do you think, Mr. Mike?
We are currently like right on the edge of being able to provide sufficient staffing. And that's where the conversation came up about having the medical forms reevaluated, because right now the secondary cook does the deliveries, but he's not back in time to be able to help with service. So what happens is we get the influx of elders in the room, and the head cook is trying to service all the people, and it just creates like a little bottleneck, and there's no additional support. So like we are right on that. If we continue to have success, we will have to have a conversation at some point of how do we acquire more funding for more staff to work at the mill site.
So then you're saying that if we have a drop off in deliveries, then we won't need additional staff because the driver will be back in time to help?
Yes. So right now his delivery time is around 2 hours. So he leaves at 11, he's back right at the end of lunch service and begins the dishes and cleanup activities. If his delivery list was cut in half, he would be back by the time to serve the noon meal with the head cook. But then again, it goes, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was just gonna ask, what is the delivery area? Is he just local or does he go out to Beatty?
So
Sprague?
on Wednesdays and Fridays, it's here in Chiloquin. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, it's in Beatty. So on Wednesdays and Fridays, Beatty and Sprague River don't get deliveries, just on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then his like route, I believe he has one way at the end of the lake. And that's one that kind of, but I think that one will stay. I don't think there's going to change, but it's all the little stops in between, you know. But then again, we talked about with Georgia and the team too, was we continue to have success. Once we start, see, we haven't even campaigned yet. Our success right now is just basically built off word of mouth. Once we campaign, I could really see our elders meal thing continuing to grow. I think just yesterday we picked up 2 new people that were unaware of what we were doing. So again, I'm trying to be cautious about how much we pull in, because I could get such a large number that we won't be able to support it, and then we'll have a good problem.
So George, glad to hear about the collaboration with Tribal Health. When we're talking about the medical designations, so that the deliveries are going to people who aren't able to get to the community centers, and when we're talking about how that relates to other programs like the RED program, remember that one of the problems we had with they're called CHRs, reaching out to elders and checking on folks, was that they needed that same medical opinion before they could fit within the scope of work over at Tribal Health. So that's also one thing I hope maybe that we can keep track of, since it's often the social services folks that realize that there's help needed before the Tribal Health folks do. Is that making sense? You understand?
Well,
what I'm saying?
let me repeat what I think you said.
Okay.
So I mean, are we talking about having the CHRs have the ability to use the same medical clearances so that they can serve and take part in those?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm asking if those 2 things can happen, and so you can get 2 birds with 1 stone there.
And I would defer to Kelly,
Yeah.
Chairman, because I'm not sure what they need to be part of that.
I understand. I'm just hoping that's part of the conversation.
And when, it will be
Okay.
now, for
Okay,
sure.
Thanks.
And just before we leave that, we are still working with hopefully the navigator with the aging and people with disabilities. There was a couple of hiccups there, which frustrated me. I think probably frustrated Joe Mike as well. And I don't want to bash the state, but here we go. So they sent me an agreement that I thought was the agreement we were going to go into. So we reviewed it, went through Art. Joe Mike sent back some comments. Then they said, oh, that's the wrong agreement. Thank you. So what they want now, and I don't know if this has been completed yet, but they want a letter from the chairman saying that we're interested in this program. Once that letter gets to the aging and people with disabilities, they'll send us the agreement. And then once again, as I said earlier, the Department of Administrative Services has about a 6-month timeline for review, even though they have it with about 5 or 6 other tribes. So once that agreement is done, Chairman, I think that that's something that perhaps the chairman might call the governor and say, really, 6 months to get that done seems a little bit unreasonable. But there we are, but we are still not forgotten about that navigator, which would be someone that would be able to help and visit tribal members that are either disabled and or elderly. So we skipped into the pictures here. The Easter event was very nice. It was here at the Congregate, and I was able to attend, and it was very well done, very well put together. The food was fabulous as always, and I think all the elders had a really fun time. The next area are some of the barriers that Joe Mike and the community services identifies. One, as always, seems to be transportation. So there is going to be hopefully a proposal coming to the tribal council in regards to being able to purchase a bus for the community services department that would help alleviate some of the transportation barrier. The other barrier that we've continued to talk about are the fact that the funding that the community services department receives from the federal government and other agencies are limited in regards to what they can do for socialization, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me, right? If the purpose is to get them to socialize, but you can't use the money to do socialization events, it's kind of an odd thing. So as you can see, the director, Mr. Mike, identifies that as one of the barriers in regards to being able to have sufficient funds to do what I really know and I think and believe that the elders really enjoy, which is going to some conferences, attending some events, whether they're local or out of state. And so if we can just keep that in mind, I'd really appreciate that. And please stop me if you have questions. Next is the ECDC. They've gone through a renovation. So I need to run over there and see how it all looked, but there's some pictures in here and they've done some pretty significant work, upgraded the kitchen, changed the floors, softer color tones, which we've talked about for a long time, something that's a little more calming than the, colors that aren't so calming. Child-sized toilets. So, maybe I can go use those. I know that's what you guys were thinking. Stop it. School age classroom is partnering also with Klamath Tribes Health and Family Services Prevention Program. This happened right when this report was being printed here, but they went to a farm, Sweet Union Farm. So I'm looking forward to the pictures of the next report. Here are some pictures of the upgrades in the kitchen. So it looks really nice. And I do intend to run over there and see and take a look for myself. But if you get an opportunity, feel free. The Education and Employment Department. I highlighted some of the areas in regards to I wanted to highlight this area on veteran services. Julie and I and Kathy met with a representative from the Oregon Department of Veteran Services. And they also have funding for a navigator for tribal members that are veterans that are trying to access services from the VA. So that's a work in progress. And as I've mentioned to the council before, what the state would like to do is get the agent and people with disabilities agreement done first, and then they would do an amendment to that for any additional kind of navigator services. So hopefully that'll work out timing wise. But the Veterans Services, the Oregon Department of Veteran Services, it's not a lot of money. So it would be something that might be coupled with another position, but they train the individual at the Veteran Services Department and to learn about how to access those services. And then they get a portal per se. So when the application gets filled out, it doesn't just go into the regular kind of system. They actually have a portal where they're able to submit that application directly. And it kind of comes to the top of the pile. The other, they do have to be certified by the Oregon Department of Veteran Services. So I'm hoping the council would support that. We're going to continue to work on that unless I hear from chairman that we don't want to do that. I will continue to work with that department to see if we can bring those services here. Also wanted to highlight more than anything for tribal members that may be listening is that the employment department also has a free CDL class. So if folks are interested in getting their CDL and folks might be interested, I know I spoke to one tribal member at the meal site that he's interested in regards to getting a CDL now, just in case the new programs and natural resources could use someone with the CDL. So just be aware of that and hopefully people will take advantage of that. There was two expungement clinics that took place May 1st and May 2nd. Very well attended. It was put together by the education department and staff. So, and hopefully we'll continue to have these on a regular basis, but they had well over 40 people in each one of those. So it was really, really good. They did it at the New Way building in Klamath Falls. And then they did it at I want to say they did it at the community center here. I don't remember where they did. It might have been just here. I don't remember. I apologize for that. But it was very well attended. The virtual reality tool they're still working on that on the policy. And thank you, council, for you heard that presentation at the last council meeting. So that's if you do get an opportunity to go try those, I think you'd get a kick out of those. I did highlight this area, council, because there's a need for updating the MOU with Klamath County in regards to the school system. So it's something I'm going to talk to Ms. Bettles about and make sure that we're working towards that. And obviously the council will be definitely involved in that. This area here is an area on the youth transition specialist. It's an individual that helps and attends the individual education plan meetings, the IEPs. So I want to kind of dig in on that a little bit more to make sure that that's being effective and that the folks that are going to these IEP trainings, I'm sure they do, but that they have the experience and the expertise to be helpful at those meetings. So I'd be interested in perhaps digging a little bit more into that and maybe even talking to some tribal members that have had staff there to see if that's helpful. What can we do to improve? But that's an area that's really close to my heart in regards to individual students that are on IEPs that should be receiving the supports that they are eligible for that oftentimes they don't. The other area that I continue to highlight is the fitness center. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depend on your outlook, the fitness center seems to have become an event center. So it's more likely that there's going to be community events other than individuals, youth in particular, but any community member using it for physical activity and or sports or something else. So into the future, it would be wonderful if we could have an event center as opposed to a fitness center that doubles up as an event center. And you can read in here, it's really tearing up the place itself because that's the floor more than anything. Anyway, they're very busy. A lot of that is happening with community events. The youth council, there is a youth council meeting tomorrow night. If you're interested in attending, it's at 6 p.m. I will be attending. I'll be attending virtually. So if any council member is available, it's tomorrow at 6. If you would like to attend those meetings, I really get a kick out of watching them run their meetings. They're serious, and they run their meetings. Not that you don't, Chairman, but they run their meetings really tight.
They don't have as big a cats to herd.
Mm-hmm.
So I also was pleased to see the Oregon State Tribal Grant applications, 143 of them.
Yeah, but I
Right.
don't think they all got, wasn't it 143, but only 101 of those applications were validated.
Thus far, right?
Right.
So, but yeah, I think that the highest numbers I'd seen in the past, as far as the folks we had in higher ed, were around 2.5. That's 2.5 times more. So that's just outstanding.
I agree.
Yeah.
How do they start that process?
Well, that's a question I'm going to have to ask Miss Julie, unless Kathy has, do you know how they start that process for the application for the Oregon State Tribal Grant? So I'll definitely get back to you. I'm sure that they have a process, but I don't know it off the top of my head.
And just so members listening in know, right, if you're an enrolled tribal member in Oregon and you want to go into higher education, the tuition is completely covered now by the state. So
Correct. So then I will definitely ask Lena to send that email out. Maybe we send that out to an e-blast saying, here's how the process starts and here's the timing and here's the timeline. So Lena, if you could note that, we will develop an e-blast, we being Julie, so that we can get that information out. The finance department, we do have, and I should have asked her to be here. We do have a new staff member in finance. Woohoo, that's good news. She goes by Lori B. So her name is Lori Bowlerjack, I believe her last name is. I just met her yesterday. She's in the big room in finance. So if you get a chance to go welcome her, I'd really appreciate that. And then there's some other positions that are still vacant, and we're ramping up all the procurement. We're wrapping up all the funding that's coming in, and we really need to get the finance department staffed up. So I know Judy and Laurel are working on this quite aggressively, but it just takes time to get those positions filled. And as you see, the big thank yous from Judy is to her staff that have really just taken additional duties. So it's other duties as assigned. So they're busy, very, very busy. Good news, the audit was finally submitted. Woohoo! That's good news. Hopefully we'll stop, and we should stop getting the nasty gram emails that we were getting from every department, agency, HUD, Department of Justice, you name it. So self-governance, on and on. Those should stop now. And I'm hoping that Judy and staff, and I'll check in with her just to make sure that the agencies that have sent us those letters, that we notify them that that's been submitted. They can see it themselves because it's public information. But I just wanted to make sure that they're aware that that audit has been submitted. So thank God. Policy development, Judy and staff are working on a request for proposals to start identifying a consultant that's going to help us update the policies within the finance department. The budget module, we're still working in regards to getting that done. She sets this as a priority for 2024 so that we can do budget approvals from all the way from start to finish in the Microy system. So that we're not, at this point, as you know, Chairman, we print, we scan, we print again, you sign, they reprint. I don't know how that, I mean, it's just the whole process that just takes a lot of time. So really looking forward to getting that an electronic submission form. I know that I wanted to highlight the housing department. I believe it's tomorrow, Chairman, that we have the low income housing tax credit workshop. So super, super important in my opinion that as many of the council members that are available to attend that workshop. I understand that the consultants will be here, Red Hawk. I think it's Red Hawk. And I don't remember what time, at 1 o'clock here in the auditorium. So please, if council members are available, please attend that.
Yeah, and I did send around an email asking folks to do their best to be here because it's potentially, I think it's 30 families that could be housed.
30 units,
30 units.
multifamily building.
But there are also some things that could prove controversial, so it's important that everyone get there and understand the best they can before it comes to a vote. I also, unless you were going to ask about this issue, Secretary, I wanted to ask about wood stoves. So I know there's been a lot of work putting in wood stoves, but I'm hearing that there's some issues. Could you clear that up or what's going on there?
I can clear it up as well as I can. I know that Kathy and I have both been involved in that in regards to some of the wood stoves were not performing as expected. That's my understanding. And my understanding as well is that staff went out and remedied those issues. Ever since I was told they were remedied, I've not been told that something's not working. But also the weather's changing, so maybe they're not using them. So that's something that I'm really concerned about in regards to, did we actually install the right stoves? I'm not sure we did or we didn't, but there's more than one tribal member and household that's called either me or Kathy or housing saying this wood stove's not working. And what seems to be happening is the smoke seems to be coming back into the house, which is obviously dangerous and not very pleasant. So I'll keep monitoring that, Chairman, and make sure I'll talk to Kenneth to make sure that that's been resolved. I mean, in my mind, whatever it takes, that needs to be resolved. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's starting to warm up now, but we definitely want it fixed before next winter. Good.
We're actually, because of the weather, we're using our wood stoves a lot. I have one of the new ones. And I know that our neighbor, my neighbor has gotten burned from the logs rolling out. Yeah, and it happens to me. We have to cut our wood a lot smaller to be able to make it burn faster. And also when we open, so mine, when I ignite my wood stove, we get smoked out. So the kids know to open the doors and the windows. And it's been happening since I got it. And with my daughter being immune compromised, it's like a huge issue for me and it's still not resolved. I had them come out this week because it's been months for them to look at it. And I know they're super busy and I support the work that they're doing, but we are being, I think our health is being compromised by these new wood stoves. And also if you come into my house in the wood stove area, there's ash just carpeted around because they just leak ash all the time. So we try not to use it since we got our new system, our heating system. So I try to use that heating system, but we do want to have wood stove, access our wood stove. I love having the wood stove, but also like there's just so much going on in our houses in tribal housing that I just am really concerned. But I do think that we have a staff that's capable. It's just I think they're just booked and they're overwhelmed. But also with our AC and our new heating system, we've got them, but we don't have a wall that covers it. So that we're just without a wall too.
A wall that covers what?
The new heating system, like
Oh.
they take the wall out, but they don't put a wall back. So, and there's like piping. And so we deserve better.
Yeah.
We just deserve better. And I'm not the only one. And so I just feel like it's important to say this now in my position that we just deserve better.
I
you know?
gotcha. Absolutely.
one thing that I've noticed, if you have an HVA system and it's running and you start your wood stove, there's so much air pulling from your house, it actually causes a downdraft. And if there's a downdraft in your home and it's just coming down your chimney, that's an issue that I've seen a lot in the past. So if you can turn off your HVA system while you start your fire and cause an updraft, that might be something they need to look at, because I've seen that and it happens in my house all the time. And I've lived in my house for 20 years. But if it's running while you're starting your fire, it'll actually pull everything back in because the makeup air into your house isn't quick enough. So that could be an issue possibly.
Yeah, I agree, but not everybody has that system in their house yet. I just want to help, you know. I also don't want to just complain. I also want to help and be patient. But I've also put out a maintenance request for my sink, and it's been since February, and they just fixed it this week. So I just have big concerns. And I'm not the only one. I'm really in conversation in community with my neighbors. And they also have concerns.
And I appreciate that. And the timing is that Chuck is here, the consultant that does the program review on an annual basis. So he's here this week. And what he does, he looks at those work orders, how many have been completed, how long does it take? And then he provides me and the director and council recommendations on how we can improve. I have spoken with him a couple of times already because he's back in the housing director's office, reviewing documents, interviewing staff, doing all kinds of good stuff. But he has already mentioned to me that it's a night and day from when he's come in years past. He's been doing this for, gosh, at least a decade, you think? So he's been coming and reviewing the housing department, Ms. Secretary.
So I have a question about a different subject, but I thought those stoves were put in by a contractor.
They were, and
How come we're not making the contractor
exactly, and
fix his work or fix their work?
yeah, and that's what I asked Mr. Kenneth to review the contract, because I'm positive, I'm hoping, and if I was smart enough, I would have highlighted it, that there's warranty, a workmanship warranty that, should be more than 2 months. So definitely take a look at that. I mean, this is an important issue, and I will definitely have a conversation with Mr. Kenneth and provide counsel an update.
And then my question was about, you put in there the 2 large water tanks at the 55 acres were cleaned and inspected, and we are working to find a vendor to service them regularly. Is there something going on were they just due for a cleaning, or is there something going on out there?
My understanding is, I hate to say it, they were never cleaned. So when Kenneth found out that they weren't cleaned, he actually went out and had a contractor. What I'm also understanding and what I've heard from Michael, from Vernon, is that we used to have a water, I don't know what you call them, technician that was available on contract. My understanding is that contract ended and we didn't put someone back on that. We recently had an issue where the water pressure was dropping on the 55-acre properties, and it was due to just the lack of maintenance in that system. So there was a power outage or something, and the pump never got stuck, never kicked back on. If there would have been someone available, they could have gone out Friday. Instead, they waited till like Monday morning, afternoon to get that fixed. And as the weekend went on, the water pressure kept going down, down, and down. So I believe that we need to re-contract someone that's going to be specifically available for those kinds of issues and maintenance.
Sheriff?
Do we know if there's the monthly testing that has to take place with the water system?
I do not know, but I will definitely find out. That might go along. Vernon's been doing the monthly water testing.
Is that new?
I think it's new for Vernon.
Okay, yeah, I was aware. I was just wondering if there was a gap between Corey and whoever's doing it now.
But we haven't done, I was just told that this morning.
So we'll definitely highlight the need to get that contract going again, whether it's with Mr. Wells or somebody else. But my understanding is that Mr. Wells was with us for a long time. So I don't know what happened there, Chairman, why that contract ended. 3 years ago, and we haven't had one since. Okay.
So obviously, right, when this is trust land and we're sovereign, we need to take responsibility for making sure that basic infrastructure is safe the way it would be if it was off reservation. So I'm hoping we can at least make sure that the water quality is meeting the standards. So we don't.
So that's the concerns we were having some discussions this morning on, is
Okay.
we have to be able to provide and show. So we're on it this morning
Okay.
since it
Thanks.
came to our attention.
And there's no more stoves going in currently until we get this straightened out?
I thought they were done with the installation of the stoves. I think there was 90 of them or something.
Yes, and I'm on this.
Okay.
So you probably heard me and Mike on the hall one morning
I
in
can't
the
remember.
front, but so I am on and I'm asking that every homeowner, tribal citizen that received a stove, that they physically go on site and ask them questions.
Good. Okay.
Because it's a number of them.
Chairman?
Yes, go ahead, Councilman.
Yeah, the issue with Mr. Wells was, he was not getting paid. For some reason or another, and I know for a fact that he called Mr. Lopez several times on that issue. He chose not to do it anymore because you can't work without getting paid. That's just how it works. He's very schooled in water management as well as maintenance on the facility. It was sad to see him go, but those were the issues. And it was not being paid once, it was not being paid multiple times. And the name that come up was Randy Joe. So I'm not sure what's going on with the new person that they're going to hire or whatever. But I think knowing that you're going to be paid for work that you've done would be appropriate, and it also secure your employment into the future on that water system. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. And I do
George?
recall, yes, sir.
So another couple questions or concerns I had out there. Unfortunately, I did go out late one night at about midnight to shut off the water for somebody when there was a breakage. I'm sure you're aware of it. I don't know that there's any backflow prevention devices on any of those units, which really is scary for contamination reasons, and pressure reducing valves as well. That would be on the unit itself. But the other one that was it took a long time to get the water break remedied because the shutoffs out there. So I'm saying this so that whoever's listening can look into these things. The shutoffs for the units, the main shutoffs, and then their secondary shutoffs was really, really strange when we did shut off. It shut off a couple different houses instead of the main shut off to the input of the unit. So if they would look at whoever did the A&E design on the water system, because it was super duper confusing that two units got shut off on one, and then we did find the main water shut off, but nothing was actually marked out there. And luckily there was no snow because the water that was standing out there was pretty bad and actually almost flooded the unit downhill from them. And I'm sure that occupant would have been pretty upset. She was upset that her toilet wouldn't flush anyways, and I totally agree. That would be a tough one. Yeah.
You got it.
So if whoever's listening would make sure that those are done, but backflow prevention devices in this day and age should always be on a unit.
Yeah, definitely confirm that. And I'll ask Lena to write this up and we'll send it off to Mr. Kenneth and give council an update as soon as possible. We're going to skip into the Human Resources Department, and I always like to highlight the percentage of Native Americans, Native hires here. You're at 75.3, 75.4, that's March and April. So you have Klamath tribal members are the majority of those Native employees, which is good news. Also, just for the benefit of tribal members listening in, there are plenty of opportunities for employment here at the Klamath Tribes. As you can see, all these positions that say until filled means that they're still open, more than likely. So there's quite a few. So if you are interested in any of these, and I would ask any tribal member that's interested in applying for these to call and get some more information. You're welcome to call me in regards to the process of how you follow the application process, and I'll give you some tips in regards to how to get that done so that you can get into the interview. And then once you're in the interview, you responsible to make sure you have a good interview. So there's plenty of positions open, Chairman and Council, and there's going to continue to be, particularly in the natural resources field and practically every department at the Klamath Tribes. We're seeing some exponential growth across the board. Good news, but also some challenges there. I'm going to skip down to some of the, as you can see, some of the goals that Ms. Laurel Robinson put together and sent over to the Bluestone Consulting. These are the goals that you saw in that presentation from Bluestone. Really excited to see this. The goals that she set are just amazing and really good work that's going to happen, I'm sure. And a lot of it has already started to happen. I'm most concerned right now about the new employee orientations that we've not done a good job on. And Laurel and team have moved down to the other end of the building, and they were identified, or I don't know what you call it, but they have a space that's going to be simply a room that's going to be used for orientation. We may do some of those orientations virtually or videos and or face to face. So hopefully that's going to get built out here in the next couple of months or a few months at least. Mr. Chairman.
I just wanted to make sure that we remembered to get the information from the Sconchin family that we're going to add to that orientation included. Maybe the logo and the description.
Oh, the logo. Okay. I'm sure Lena will remind me on that one. Lena, please.
Better she reminds you than me.
Yeah. Yes, she will. And thank you for that, Chairman. I failed to remember that. So we'll definitely get that into the orientation. Language department, I'll keep going down as quickly as I can. And nonetheless, I just wanted to highlight that the language department was awarded a grant for the recording of elders impacted with boarding schools. So that's interesting work that's going to happen here into the future from the Oregon Department of Education. The Miss Georgine Nelson did attend the League of Cities that took place at the Running Y. So there was, I guess, some leaders from across the state. And so she provided some opening prayers. And so really just wanted to appreciate that. The Zoom classes are now including opening prayers in the tribal languages. So if you have not had an opportunity to join up on those Zoom classes, they happen on a regular basis. I'd really encourage you to do that. I get a lot of positive feedback on that. The member benefits, there's almost 5,852 tribal members. And I did put the percentage there, 20.7% of them are under 18. So, you know, whether that's a young tribe or about the right number, I'm not sure. I did look up the general number in the population, and it's about 21%. So right on that, kind of similar to the general population of people being under 18. As you can see here, the enrollment officer will be scheduling some IDs for this summer. And Chairman, I wanted, and it was brought up to my attention that in the past, the council would do community meetings like in Eugene or Portland so that they can do tribal IDs. And I was asked if council was going to do that here in the near future. I wasn't sure. So just wanted to mention that to the council in case you are interested in doing that. Maybe we could double it up for getting some tribal IDs and other resources out into Portland, Eugene, or Medford, or wherever you'd like.
Yeah, I think we should get out to the cities up north again. I think the tribal members always appreciate that when we do it.
So I will ask Kathy to coordinate with Joseph and Lena and see if we can't nail down some days and space and all that good stuff.
Are our IDs now, are they, do they meet the real ID standards that?
I'm not sure they meet the real ID standards. I do understand they meet the federal standards for an ID, but not the real ID.
Well, my understanding, I think I saw a news report saying that a year from a couple of days ago, those are going to be required now for, yeah.
May something of 2025. Yeah, and I just, the reason I know that is because I got stuck at DMV, a popular place at 7:30 in the morning, where the line is actually around the building. So by the time I got my little tag, it was like 8:10, and then I didn't get out of there till 11. But the real IDs were what a lot of people were there for.
It'd be good to know because I'll bet the line at member benefits be a lot shorter than the one at DMV.
Yeah, and I'll ask Joseph about that. I'm not sure what it takes to be a real, I know that there's work to be done to be recognized as a federal ID, right? So you in the past, before the real ID existed, you could get on an airplane with that. Now I'm not sure, but I will definitely check with Mr. Allen.
They're still TSA approved.
The tribal IDs?
Yeah, I make sure I use it everywhere and then make them go through their list to make sure that it's still TSA approved, but I don't know for how long.
Right. But what happens when real ID kicks in May 25th or 25? I don't know, but we'll find out. Ms. Secretary?
That's just what I was going to say, is to check on it and see.
Yeah.
Because that would be very convenient for our tribal members.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll definitely check on that and get that. I mean, if it's true that it is a real ID, we definitely need to get that e-blasted and posted and formed. I'm not sure what it takes to be a real ID. I mean, for me, they required a passport, they required another form of ID, they required a utility bill, so then they took a picture and that was it. So the Highway 97 improvement project, Chairman, I know that the council, I think, is pretty much up to date on where we are with that. And they're looking at what Director Hall calls the backbone of the property there at the casino. So just wanted to make sure that Red Plains, I'm sorry, that the council understands and is aware that they did present to the casino staff. So I was not at that meeting. I don't know if a council member had the opportunity to attend that, but they did provide an update to the casino staff, and potentially we should maybe ask if they could provide an update to the tribal council. So we'll do that. Lena, if you could ask Jared to help put that together. I'll skip down through that on Highway 97. The Williamson River Church. I know that this is on the general council coming up on the 18th. I did ask Director Hall to put together additional information on the condition of the church, the amount of land property that's there, other structures that are there, the roads, so on and so forth. So he'll put that together, Chairman, and send it on its way so that council can review it. And then I understand it's on the general council agenda for May 18th.
So one of the things I was hoping that we could have for the general council was a description of what exactly changed in terms of the status. My recollection is there was an issue with the survey, right? So the ownership was always kind of in limbo. And from what I understand, planning department was finally able to get that cleared up. And so the change in status as far as ownership is what should allow us now to be thinking about the kinds of things we want to do to improve and use that facility. So I'm hoping that can be part of what comes to general council. What exactly has changed?
And I did request that that document that Mr. Hall is putting together be available by the end of business on Monday. So as soon as that comes in, I'll send that to the council. And if you need additional information, we can ask him for that information.
Okay, Secretary?
I was going to say, wasn't a lot of that discussion in an email that we got, or maybe the presentation for moving it into Feed a Trust. Yeah. So we have a lot of that information.
Okay. And I apologize. I don't recall off the top of my head if that email. So I'll look for that as well and see, and maybe Mr. Hall could include that in his information to us. So thank you for that. And I'm just going to skip down to the bottom here on the Williamson River Delta land transfer. You can see the future transfer of this property will be a challenge on a lot of different levels. So Director Hall is continuing to monitor this, but there seems to be some concerns in regards to that land transfer at this point. And then I know that Tribal Council has been up to date with the Green Diamond and the Long Bell track. I know we had a meeting here maybe about 3 weeks ago. And so that continues to be updated by Director Hall, Chairman.
Got another meeting scheduled with Senator Merkley's staff. Do we know off the top of your head when that's? I know it's on the calendar, and the invitations have gone out to the ad hoc committee.
So it's Senator Merkley staff and council and committee?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll make sure that people are aware of that meeting. I'm going to skip down some here. It's just some quick updates on the tribal court building. I've been out there a couple times. Looks really nice. I hope that they're going to be able to get in there according to this by early June, which is like next week. So we'll see how that rolls. I might go back out there and see how they're doing, but my understanding is that they're mostly done with the inside. There'll be some additional work taking place on the outside, but it shouldn't prohibit folks from occupying the building inside. So that's good work. The Yahuskin lot is moving forward as well. As you can see, the concrete's been poured, and the walls and the building will start coming up. So that's good work. I really appreciate that. And according to Director Hall, all the ARPA projects are currently under budget, which kind of brings the question that Secretary brought earlier, is where we are with the ARPA funding. So we're hoping to get all the proposals into the council here very soon, so that we can nail down what we're going to be doing here through the end of the year. As you know, we need to have some pretty good plans by the end of this year, December, on what we're doing with those ARPA funds. Ms. Secretary.
Yeah, I go home past the one, lot where they've been working on it, and thinking that was the only one, and then the other one shoots up over on the other side, and it's like, where'd that come from?
Yeah, I think there's two, right? There's the
Yeah.
Yahoo Skin, and then there's the Judah Gym.
Uh-huh.
So there
Yeah.
are two.
Yeah, so it's exciting to see those going up.
Absolutely.
Hopefully
Absolutely.
it'll be quick.
Yep. And you know, that brings up another matter, Mr. Chairman. I know that we've had this discussion, you know, that the governor's going to be here July 31st. Thank you for reserving those rooms. I think that you had a hand in it, or chairman did, or someone did, but,
Just blew the security, but that's okay.
oh yeah, they're not going to be here.
I'm working with, I'm working on that. The hotel was completely booked by a group at the beginning of the year during that time, but I think we're gonna be able to, I'm working on securing those rooms. Okay. As of right now, we have 0 occupancy availability.
And that's what I
FYI. And
suspected.
It's been like that for, since like before March.
Wow.
But
Well, that's good.
We're working on that.
Good. I appreciate that very much. And when I was aware that she was going to be here, you know, I immediately emailed chairman and staff saying, we better reserve these rooms because it's going to be
Mum's
tough.
the word on this.
Yeah, absolutely. But Chairman, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, Ben, general manager at the casino, told me yesterday that they were gonna get it done. He said there might only be 8 suites,
Yeah,
but they were gonna get
He
it
was,
done.
yeah, I was out of town when he got that and he hadn't checked on that yet, but we're working on it.
So my point, Chairman, is that with the Melitas project, turnkey project, with these other housing projects that are taking place, as we all know, the governor really takes the increase in housing stock as a priority for her. So just really want to make sure that and I did ask staff if we could start working on a meeting for agenda development, because as I'm positive, you know, we want to educate her about natural resources and AMBODOT and housing and social services. There's a lot of issues, education, the inequities in funding for education from tribes to non-tribal entities, which seems ridiculous to me, but it's from like tribes get $30,000 where non-tribal entities get $1 million or $2 million. You know, so there's some real serious inequities. So I'd really like to start, Chairman, if possible, start developing that agenda. I want my recommendation is to have the youth council involved. Recommendation is to have the ECDC children involved. The governor does want to have dinner with the council that evening. So I'm assuming that would happen at the casino. So I just wanted to make sure that we start thinking about that agenda because it'll be here pretty quick.
Yeah, thank you for sending the email, and we did pass it around. And so I thought the start of the agenda that you had was really good, and I know she's very interested in getting over to Melitas. So, you know, we did have some kind of I don't want to wait to get people in there until she's here, but
No.
if we could have some kind of an opening plan for that. I think
Absolutely.
She'd love it because she did tell me before that she really wanted to visit Melitas. So.
Yeah, and thank you for that. And I did, you know, considering that, I did ask Director Ruthart that before we start before tribal members start occupying those units, is that he be very clear with the council on what the policy is, the eligibility requirements are, the application process, on and on. Because the last thing I want to do is put folks in there and then we come up with a disagreement and we don't have a policy. So I'm assuming that he's working on that, and that'll definitely come up in front of the tribal council as you approve policies. The tribal property sign project, as you can see, there's some work to be done there still, and I'm assuming that we're going to work with Mr. Hall to contract somebody. So at the last sentence, he says the plan is to get a sign installation contractor hired by midsummer. So hopefully I'll check in with him again to make sure that that's moving forward and see if we can help move that forward sooner than later.
Yeah, so is the midsummer issue, is that outside of his department that's making that slow, or, I mean?
No, I'm not aware that it's outside of his, I've not seen any paperwork starting on that contract. Have you, Kathy? So, you know, I just think it's almost midsummer already. So in my mind, but I'll definitely check in with him and see if we can help him get that contract going and identify the funding and get that work started.
Thank you.
The natural resource fire complex building, I'll leave that to Mr. Steve back here. And then I'll skip forward we are still, and I have asked Kathy to help me with the policy that's in Lexipol. So what Lexipol does is they meet with the staff, they go over a certain policy chapter, then they put it into a shared database file. And then what they want me to do is review each one of those and then put it back in the file as being reviewed by the general manager. I mean, we're talking 400 pages. So I'm biting away at a bit, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So I'm doing it one little bit at a time. But I have asked Kathy to start also reviewing the ones that I've not gotten to, so that we can at least make sure that we've reviewed them once, put them back in there. They'll review any comments we have. At that point, it'll come to the tribal council, and then potentially up to the council, may go to general council. I'll skip down some areas here. The chief and Officer Moore on May 6th started their virtual academy. So you'll be seeing less of them. They are available for call outs or anything information that you need. One question they had is if you want, and one of them here May 18th. I'm not sure, Chairman, if you'd want that or not for the general council. But the other is that they will not be around. The curriculum is 8-hour a day curriculum. It's virtual. So they review, they take tests, they move forward. So hopefully we'll get that and get them through that DPSTT Oregon certification. Social services, we had talked a little bit about this before, but wanted to just let you know that the TANF program continues to work with other departments, specifically education and employment, child support, community services, and the RED program. They're going to be attending the TANF Institute in Sacramento, July 2024. And it occurred to me, I'm not sure if a council member's ever attended those institutes. I think it would be really helpful if there was a council member to go along just to hear what other tribes are doing, to hear the innovations that are available, the flexibility that's available in TANF. Even though I think we do a good job, I think there's a lot of room for doing other kinds of activities that we've not traditionally done in the past. So if it's July 26th, it's in Sacramento. Usually it's at UC Davis, and UC Davis is the sponsoring agency. They're the ones that facilitate the trainings. They're very good trainings. I used to go to those every year, actually helped develop some of the curriculum 20 some odd years ago. So if there is a council member that's interested in that, I'd really appreciate them tagging along and going to that TANF Institute. Ms. Vice Chair, you ready? So I'll skip down some pictures. They had an Easter event. This I found interesting, and I'm glad it's happening, is that the General Assistance Program is working with the Pallet Shelter in Klamath Falls with the behavioral health. So that's good. Yesterday, just on the side, real quick, I had a luncheon with the Director of Parole and Probation, Mr. Aaron Hartman. They have a new funding stream that's coming in that we potentially could talk to the governor as well. It's called deflection. So Proposition 101, which decriminalized illicit drugs. I'm sorry, 110. What did I say, 101? Yeah, Prop 110. So that decriminalized some illicit drugs. Now they're recriminalizing these drugs in a sense, but they're going to be funding a program called deflection, which is a little bit of a nuance to what used to be drug court, if you're familiar with what drug court used to be. But there's a difference this time. The judge is not going to be involved. In the past, you would remember potentially the individual would get a citation, be ordered to go to court. The judge would say, you can go to drug court, and if you finish drug court, we'll clear your record. If you don't finish drug court or refuse to go, we'll send you to jail. What this new program is deflection. So literally, it could be law enforcement, it could be behavioral health staff, it could be someone on the street that has the authority to tell the individual, you can either take this citation and it'll be a misdemeanor, or you can go through the deflection program. They're in the process now of developing the program. The state has funded counties $300,000 or $400,000 to help develop the model. So they're in the process of developing the model. The conversation I was having with Director Hartman is, how can the tribe fit into that? The state is also doing a set aside. So tribes are going to be eligible for about $250,000, $300,000 to develop that model. My belief is that it would be better to partner with the county, not my decision, But my recommendation would be to partner with the county and make sure that we're able to provide those culturally relevant deflection services. Mr. Hartman also brought up the fact that the pallet shelter could serve as that deflection site. So when someone is sighted on the street, they could be not my, obviously beyond my desk, but they could potentially be referred to the pallet shelter. If they participate in the pallet shelter and actually get a case, they can get their citation cleared. So it would be, and it could fund some of the pallet shelter spaces. Anyway, just a preliminary conversation I had with Director Hartman, and I do intend to write it up and send it to Deborah and send it to Ms. Kelly Hawk and see if we can start that conversation. I'm not sure if it'll work, but I think it's worth the conversation.
So thank you for that, George. I did want folks to know, right, that the Measure 110 set-asides and the emphasis on regaining health as opposed to incarcerating people was a big topic of conversation at the last dinner that the tribal chairs had with the governor. That was before the revisions to the law were passed. Our temporary shelters are funded by Measure 110 dollars, so it's really important that we keep those set-asides going. I also, I know Vice Chair was there as well. We sat in on the candidates forum last Friday evening where the sheriffs, and you were there as well. There were some real differences as far as how those various candidates for sheriff think about this program. So I'd urge our members to pay attention to that. And you'll be surprised, I think, by some of the individuals who are running that you might think would be really looking at, rehab and regaining health as opposed to incarceration, and not the case. So please, pay attention to what their views are on this before you cast your vote.
Thank you, Chairman. Our staff, the Child Family Services, participates in the Citizen Review Board, and I also understand Treasurer Hatcher is part of that board. So thank you for that work. That's serious work and not a lot of fun. So they're reviewing child welfare cases, and I'm sure those are difficult. But thank you for that. This is the picture from the recent Child Abuse Awareness Month. I'm absent because I was in line at DMV, but nice picture. I just wanted to bring this up that we're actually starting to see some requests coming in from out of the country, particularly for MMIP services. So I've been trying to work with Ariel and Ms. Lewis in regards to what that looks like, particularly with our funding sources, which oftentimes don't allow that in the initial award letters. So really appreciate Ariel taking the time to do what they call a GAM, which is basically a modification to the grant agreement.
George,
Yes,
when
ma'am.
you say out of the country, is it still on the within the continent, or is it just like out?
The
like really-
current folks that we're working with are in Mexico. They're in Mexico, so and they're trying to get home. And this is the highlight here is the SIP, which I'm forgetting what that stands for. Survivors Investment Program, I think. So Ariel and Judy, myself and Kathy, and I think that was it, had a meeting recently. So she has a bucket of funding. It's going to be about $450,000 every 2 years. And she's already got the first tranche of money, and she's expecting the next tranche as soon as she requests it. And that's going to be ongoing. What she would like and is proposing to do, whether it's purchased, rented, leased, not sure how that's going to work, are homes in Klamath Falls that are basically safety shelters, perhaps you can call them, so that when individuals are identified as being victims of domestic violence, they have somewhere to go. What we have been doing, which is not very economical or efficient, is putting these individuals in hotel rooms to the tune of $150 to $160 a night, to where if we were to lease a house, we could probably lease a house for $1,600, $700 or $2,000 a month. So what she's either going to lease and or purchase homes, staff them, and then be those kind of safe shelters for victims of domestic violence. It's just in the conversation phase. She's sharpening her pencil and figuring out the best way to do it. We think that perhaps leasing homes might be an easier way of doing it instead of purchasing homes that have to remain in that realm of service for 15 years. So if the program closes and or the council decides that that's not working out and we close it, we need to keep that house in that realm of service for 15 years. If we lease a house, if something happens, we can obviously just terminate the lease. So just kind of the positives and negatives. So we're working on that. It's still a conversation.
So wasn't there a facility that exists that we used in the past?
Yeah, that's Turtle
Marta's-
Cove. Is that what it's called? Marta's
Marta's
house?
house?
Marta's. Oh, what was it?
Social services at that time, something wind, whirlwind, I'll stop.
Anyway, we're not using that anymore?
I'm not sure that we're using them anymore, are we? I've never heard of them. Oh, so we rented a home and made it into a shelter. We don't do that anymore. No, that's closed. Well, Healing Winds is our program.
It was called that house, right? The Beddoes House on the lake.
Okay.
All right, I know that secretary is looking at me because I've taken, and I was gonna ask if Steve could do just a quick 10-minute update. Miss Treasurer, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to make a comment. So I think that that would be good with social services to lease or something because I sign those checks for those hotel. That is outrageous.
Yep.
Every month.
Yes.
I mean, and what are they getting out of it?
Yes.
Hotels, yeah.
Well, and I understand that Ariel's working on that policy for Healing Winds. And it needs some revisions. I'm no expert in the domestic violence realm, so forgive me if this is not proper. But it would seem to me that we need to really empower people, not enable people, right? So putting folks in a hotel room for 2 months, I'm not sure how much help that is. I mean, maybe it's good for the moment, but I'm just not sure that's exactly what is going to help get out of that situation. Now, like I'm saying, I'm not an expert in that field at all. I'm going to lean on Ariel and the Healing Winds team. And so she is revising that policy to kind of bring some of those empowerment strategies to bear. Then that'll be obviously come in front of the council.
Okay, good.
And
Thank you.
part of the reason I asked about the other facility, right, is because this is complex stuff and we're going to need professionals to be able to handle it. So I'm hoping that we're doing the background work to make sure we're prepared if we do end up with a facility.
Well, and Chairman, we're serving them now. We're just not in a facility, right?
Well-
They're in hotel rooms at $180 a night or whatever it might be.
I understand.
Yeah,
I understand. But I just think there's some expertise that's necessary to be brought on board so that we are doing what we need to be doing.
Yeah. Well, and I've talked to Ariel about potentially hiring maybe it's too strong of a word, but a clinical staff member that would help guide our social services staff across the board, not only in domestic violence, but child welfare and every program under domestic social services, and maybe even under housing. It would sure be nice to have a clinician on board. It's really difficult to get clinician support and services in the community, even from, I mean, no disrespect, but even from our own staff at health. It's difficult to get someone in there to at least have a conversation with someone that knows from that expert eye. So it's a conversation I've had with Ariel in regards to, can we do that here? Can we hire a social worker that's a licensed clinical social worker that's tribal? Would be awesome. And they're out there. This is my last little piece, and then I'll turn it over to Steve just for a quick update, if I may. I'm really excited about the front lobby remodel. Kathy's continuing to plow forward on that one. Kathy and Joe brought up a really good point earlier today about whether there could be some kind of enclosure or something so that the computer for the virtual work is not just open. What he finds often after a general council meeting, soda cans and who knows what else happens to those computers and who messes around with them and whatnot. So he thought that having some kind of either a raised platform or some enclosure there that would kind of block that off and then make it look a little bit more pleasant instead of looking at the bunch of wires there. So I don't know if we've talked about that with the consultants, but that was something that Mr. Joe brought up earlier today. The strategic plan, thank you, council members that attended the presentation from Bluestone on the strategic plan. Kathy and I and team are working on the amendment to that plan, to the contract, Chairman. There's a couple of questions there in regards to the work that might take place under the health side. So we need to kind of split that out because we're not able to pay for what health needs. And so that's part of the work that's taking place. So we are moving that forward. And I know that we continue to get their consultant, so they're only as good as their next contract. I continue to get calls and texts and where are we, but that's where we are.
So I've had a couple of texts in the last 3 days from the vice president. Did you get a chance to talk to him?
I did via text, and I just let him know that due to some staffing changes in health and due to the fact that there needs to be some clarity in regards to the payment method of the work that's to be done, to give us some patience. And I think he agreed, but I'm sure we'll get a text here soon. Steve, do you mind? I apologize, Steve, to keep you waiting back here.
Thank you, George. So I wasn't able to submit my report this go around. So I wanted to be available to answer any questions you have and explain a couple of things. So reason I didn't get my report done, as you guys know, we've had a lot of growth and I'm in a place of transition, just kind of like we all are, where I've been hiring a lot of folks and putting programs in place under the department. And so what I'm going to do in the future is have those program directors provide reports, and then I'm going to summarize those and provide them to you. So with that growth, one of the priorities we have is a new building to staff folks, mainly the fire department. We're going to have more than 20 people on in the near future, and we've outgrown both of our spaces because we've had more growth in addition to the fire department, our other programs as well. So at this point in time, we've met with Jared. I've had Tim, the fire program manager, and then Dawn, the natural resource specialist, helping to try to find a location for a building and get that going as soon as we can and established. At this point in time, we've looked at existing tribal properties. We have identified a suitable property that is on the west side of Highway 97, adjacent to the Letitia Kirk property. So just a little bit north of the casino and on the other side of the highway. There is a suitable location. That's not to say it would be approved by council and general members to build there. So we're also looking at other opportunities, and we're providing information from the BIA that it may be more effective if we did purchase a property and get something established while that property is in fee status. It could get done a lot faster. We wouldn't necessarily have to go through the NEPA process, which could last up to a year at times. So we're trying to get that done as quickly as we can. And some of the success we've had with funding has given me the ability to take funding that I had budgeted for other things and use it for a building. So we have a minimum of $1.5 million for a building right now. And I'm going to re-look at our budgets, and we'll probably have a little bit more once I do that. So with that, I wanted to jump into agreements. Of course, you guys know that we've all been working a lot on trying to get the master stewardship agreement established. So I want to talk about that, but I also want to talk about another agreement, which is the Tribal Forest Protection Act agreement. So the fire program, typically we see with tribes around the country work through a Tribal Forest Protection Act agreement, and that is a stronger agreement than the master stewardship agreement. And it really directs us more towards our sovereignty and having more authority over what we do under that agreement. So the issue that we've run into is that we've made a request for a Tribal Forest Protection Act agreement. That request was for $10 million. And part of that would be startup funds to buy a bunch of equipment and gear to get going as soon as we can, and then implement work. But what we found is Tribal Forest Protection Act agreements are typically done through the Department of Interior. It was actually the 2019 Farm Bill that created the authority for the Department of Agriculture, which is the Forest Service and who we are typically working with here, to work under a TFPA. The issue is they just created a pilot for that and the authority to get started. And there was something like 20 projects, but they haven't updated anything in terms of their authorities and making sure that the tribes have the ability to work with the Department of Agriculture on those agreements. So we've seen that already with our reserve tree rights land agreement, where the Department of Interior just got us $4.1 million for that. So the Department of Agriculture isn't able to do that. So what they've proposed is that they would give us $3.5 million right now to implement the TFPA activities that we planned, and $761,000 for startup costs to buy engines and other equipment that we need. What they want to do, though, is put that under the MSA. So again, those are two quite different agreements, and there's better authorities in the TFPA. The problem here, we're going through the Department of Agriculture. It'd be a lot more simple if it was Department of Interior. So now that kind of places more stress on the master stewardship agreement, and importance for us to get that modified actually in order to include those monies into that agreement. So where we are on the master stewardship agreement is we just signed that agreement, and $1.2 million is coming into that agreement. That's from the former MSA that we had and successfully sunsetted in 2020. And then the Forest Service has an extra $1 million they want to get to us. That's what prompted a modification as quickly as we can. We didn't want to modify the base agreement because that would take a lot more time to go through our review processes. So if we were able to get the agreement signed like we have, we could modify it fairly quickly to get that funding in. So we're working on a modification right now for that. So the funding that would come into the agreement with this modification that we can hopefully get done in a week or two would be the 1.2 million, the 1 million, the 3.5 million from the fire program, and 761,000 startup money, which ends up being something like $6.4 million that's going to be coming into that agreement. Right now, the only amount in the agreement is 1.2 million. So if we can get that modification done, that would allow us to get that funding into our coffers to be able to start to use. And what we've seen is that they can promise us money. They can write it in a letter to the chairman, but that money's not guaranteed, right? It's not guaranteed until we actually have it. So they think they have funding available, and then they find out they don't. And we just ran into that with that startup funding. That kind of confused things a little bit, but I think we're back on track after contacting the senator. So that's a general summary. And I think I covered everything in there. So again, the timing is part of this, where we think in the future, the best route to go would be to have an actual TFPA with the Department of Agriculture, the Forest Service, but there's timing on this money. It could disappear if we don't get it into an agreement soon. The dates we were given on that would be June 1st. So we'd like to get a modification done to get those funding sources into this agreement.
Thanks, Steve. I wanted to thank you and your staff for all the help working with Senator Merkley's office to make sure that we stay on track for getting those funds. It was really distressing, right, when the local Forest Service said, yeah, we know you have a letter, but that money's not there anymore. A couple of days after the senator had asked on the Senate floor about those dollars and was told that they were available.
Yeah.
So if you could be sure that we stay in the loop, so that when Senator Merkley's staff asks next time, has the money arrived, that we can make sure that they're aware of what the status it is. I also think it really helped because when the MSA was at the federal legal team being reviewed, when we started asking those questions, that came back much more quickly than I expected it to.
Yep.
So that was good.
Yep, you bet.
That was good. And folks don't know, right? I mean, we've had these MSAs in the past.
Yes.
They're literally the day-to-day business for the Natural Resources Department. But this one is so much stronger, right? It really puts us in the driver's seat in terms of being a senior partner in being able not just to plan, but to implement, actually do the work on the ground in the Fremont, Wainema, in our traditional forests. So, and it's the basis, right, for all the growth in capacity.
That's
and
right.
lays the groundwork for continued growth and more putting us in the driver's seat. So thank you for all the work that went into that.
You bet.
Councilwoman, did you have a question?
I did. I just had a comment. I would really like to see this go before General Counsel and to have a discussion there. I do think it should have been on our May General Council agenda, the MSA, and then now to receive this information about it's new to me. I just Googled it, the Tribal Forest Protection Act. If we're in the driver's seat, General Council needs to be informed. I think even a special General Council would be ideal. But I have concerns that General Council is not up to date or up to speed on this, and that has been brought here instead. So that would be my recommendation, to bring that forward so we can have a larger conversation with more people involved.
I also, do we refer to the language through, what is it, the TFPA, and the MOU regarding interagency coordination and collaboration for protection of tribal treaty rights and resources? Do we use that in language that we're talking about?
So the MSA does directly reference the MOA and states, right, that it works in conjunction with that.
Okay.
I actually think what the MSA does is give teeth to the MOA. The MOA says,
No,
right. that
MOU. This
I
is
mean,
different.
I'm sorry, the MOU.
Okay.
The MOU's right is about consultation and the requirement of consultation. This actually says we're the senior partner in designing and implementing the work.
Yeah, I'm reading outside of the TFPA in the MOU, which has got stronger language than what it looks like in the TFPA.
Yeah, not the TFPA, but the MSA.
No.
Yes, it is
I'm
confusing,
looking-
and that's
yeah,
part of
I'm
the
a-
issue.
I'm actually looking at the MOU at the federal level for all tribes in the US, not the MOA,
Oh, okay, yeah.
which is, it's actually referenced in the TFPA as the guiding documents for the TFPA. It's convoluted, obviously. There's so many different agencies, but the MOU, which I emailed a link to that, I think has some stronger language in there.
So I agree, there's definitely a need for education. It's such a complicated thing. I know that Ken Smith is asking for you and I to do a podcast about this. So yeah, and I plan to write about it in the tribal newspaper this time, but the more information we can get out to our membership about it, I think the better.
Yeah, you bet. The TFPA is definitely a stronger authority than the MSA, and a little more detail on that is both the MSA and TFPA are authorities. They provide no avenue for funding. The funding is provided through the documents under them. So under the MSA, it's an SPA. Under the TFPA, and I know a lot of acronyms here, under the Tribal Forest Protection Act agreement, it's 638 contracting. So, but again, we're working with the Department of Agriculture. They don't have the experience with TFPAs. And that's why we're kind of, and the timing is putting us in a position to where we need to use the MSA to accept that funding at this point in time. One other main thing that I think is important to recognize is that all of the indications I've got from the senators is that they won't consider land return unless you have successful TFPAs or MSAs in place. I'm Steve Rondo.
pickup trucks is a little boring. Reading the signs for now. For now, we. That's me. You should have. But I'm fired. You're not my voice. And you've done nothing for me in my street or my people or my house that I hunt and live off of. Right now, my health is impaired. It is stuff I can do. They say, because my people won't protect me. So, Mr. Jackson. And you showed me how valuable I am. Dollars, $2,000. I'm a number of my people. And that's what you guys speak about what done in my life. You should answer your phone. I would be glad to drop Mr. Washington, D.C. I would like to say it's not in my as a hunter and gatherer, Christian. I want to know what's being fought for in my land. And I want that land returned to me and my people. The BLM land that MODOKs are talking about. I lived it all my life. And ain't nobody fighting to give me back nothing. So Washington, D.C. in 2000 said, Germany, we can go for 20 years. Mr. Jackson, Creighton. 20 years with one phone call from Gail Norton, and this is where we're at now. Everybody in this land is making money except you. So no taro office, nothing. You guys need something, at least the crumbs on the table of everything coming in here, of people without resources. So, Mr. Jackson, we need to get through with our agenda. You need to understand from the point of the people who actually live here. My health is at stake now. I'm a great grandfather, so I'm not talking about myself, and I never have. You guys know me, you know my lifestyle, and I haven't changed one time. Everything I've done is honorable for my people. If you say otherwise, you're a liar. And I'll tell you that to your face. Your grandfather loaded rifle. Ask me my people. If there's anything about left in you that you can stand as a descendant, everything I've ever done was honorable for my people. Everything. I never asked you to die. Matter of fact, I'm taking care of me. And I appreciate everyone. It's in the sound like this. I live in this. Give me that. Do I know if it's your heart? I live in this heart. But how can you stand here and turn blind to the death years of things around you? When everybody in our land is thankful, but us, the people. I am the late, the Laconia person. The late, you know, the land around me thinking who I am. You should answer your phone. You should advise. You're not the voice for me. You're talking for them. And who wants this me and mine? I've lived them all my life. The thing my grandma Clara Buffalo Jackson, who you forced people to make the road after. And they destroyed around it. Nothing goes in that land. When you strip it, break it, take it back to the lodge school. All I see is black Ponderosa leaving my land. But don't lie to me and tell me you're mad at my lodge school. And that's what my animals used to hide along the waterways and meadow in the lodge bowl. That's what that baby. You should be fired. And you go put representing me and my people. Because the descendants of this land are watching everything go away. And what am I to tell my grandkids and my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren? I have sons with me. I have 52 grandchildren. I'm a blessed man. You know what? I'm here because of them and not me. And you fired. And you went on to Washington and talking to people that you don't So we need to go ahead and finish the meeting. Mr. Jackson, thank you.
I just want you guys at this end, come to me. At this end, come to me. And let's get together and take back that land to be returned because you let it burn up. You're messes. That was the message of the United States Forest Service. And then you continue to practice the same tactic. Firing up your messes to let it burn it. Clear cutting, tell us you can't hunt here, you can't hunt there. We let it buy up our winter range. Now you're gonna fill out here, these children's buying our land now. You guys better get on the stick and start fighting for who's right and who's living. Who's still real? I didn't take no money. Nobody gave me no money. You took money. What was it like, Chairman?
I have no idea what you're talking about, Creighton.
Creighton, you're walking stick. Creighton. Creighton, before you leave, can I answer you real quick?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
I want to be proud of something. You want what we used to be. You fired. You guys geothermal technology. Stop their goals. People run the banks and the college with all this future. You ain't got the people are suffering from
Chairman, I know you want to move forward. But, and I can't speak on behalf of Creighton. And Creighton and I don't see eye to eye on a lot of things, but this is from frustrations built up of questions that haven't been answered. And this may not have been the right forum, but not, I think it's important for us to hear him speak because of the frustrations and the people that that he talks to at his level, the levels that we don't often get to hear from. So I just want to say I appreciated the words that he talked about, not the forum, but attacking is his frustrations. And Creighton's normally a pretty fair individual with fair statements. And I just want to say that I have a lot of those thoughts, and I portray them different. But I can't stand there and fault Creighton for anything he said.
So thanks for that, Ellsworth. You know, I used to talk to Creighton pretty regularly, and I'm happy to do it as long as he's not screaming at me. I do think that there is information out there. There are things being shared, and I'm certainly always happy to talk to him. But, you know, we need to be respectful. And I agree with you, you know, this isn't the right forum for that. Go ahead, Councilwoman.
I don't think that he was screaming. I don't feel offended by what he said. I really appreciate what he said. It was really refreshing to hear what he has to say in this space. I just feel like I'm frustrated. I'm extremely frustrated on here. And I take what he said to heart. And I think we all should listen to that and bless him.
I think what's happening with the Natural Resources Department is one of the most exciting things that's going on with Klamath Tribes right now. You know, I agree with him that the things that happened out there just last year in terms of all that mastication, that was awful. And we had quite a battle over it to get it stopped. And we did get it stopped. And I think what's exciting about what's happening now is that we'll be the ones in charge, right? So that we'll be doing the work, not who the Forest Service thinks should be doing it.
Our people have to know what's going on.
I agree.
They have to know. We're in the dark. I feel like I'm in the dark. I need a work session on what you're just talking about.
We've
The
had
hell?
multiple work
I feel
sessions on the
extremely,
MSA.
but right now what you're giving me, I need a whole work session. I don't need acronyms anymore. I understand how he's feeling. and our people need to know what's going on.
I also agree with that. I don't hold anything against what he said because I'm just saying the same thing everybody else is saying, is people need to know, they need to understand and not feel left out. Even as part of council, things happen so quickly and it's weeks or months later before we're caught up. Yes, I have a responsibility because of where I sit, but I'm on the move all the time. But we have to be able to communicate this. When a decision is made and people aren't included that need to be included, that's where the frustration comes from. A lot of these agreements, MOUs, MOAs, when we don't include everybody that has a part in it, this is what happens. We need to include everybody in making these decisions, not only on the council level, but department level and membership level.
So the MSA, right, went through KIGC, Culture and Heritage Department, Natural Resources Department, OMBODOT. It was up in a form for editing. People could make comments, could cut things out, put new things in for tribal council for maybe 3 weeks. I'm the only one that actually made comments and suggested edits before it went to legal for review.
Okay,
But were,
thank you,
weren't some
Chairman.
of those comments that were put in by departments taken out?
No need to. Thank you, though.
Don't apologize. We needed that.
Go ahead, Berta.
Weren't some of those comments that were put in by the other departments, weren't the other departments removed from that MSA? Was it changed after it had come to council?
I think there were a lot of changes that came as a result of the comments.
Only legal, from my perspective, made any edits to it.
But the edits, right, were based on the comments that were placed into it.
Right. The comments and suggested edits were sent directly to legal, and Natural Resources didn't do any revisions to those.
I think right now, as council, we're showing our frustration in a lot of things that have happened and not happened. With this agreement we're talking about, there were comments that were made by committees and departments. And my true honest feeling about what happened is we're always speaking about consultation with outside agencies, with the feds, and how our consultations just seem like, oh, we're here talking to you and what do you have to say? And then they walk away and do whatever they want. I feel that that's what we're starting to do to ourselves. We are not listening and paying attention to what our departments really need. All of our departments, not just one. There isn't one shining department within our tribe. Our tribe should shine as a whole. So that's my thoughts and that's my opinion.
Yeah, Gail, I think we share a lot of the same thoughts and opinions. And when it comes to the MSA and the MOU, I think a lot of it of distrust from our membership that actually utilize the forest at a higher level than a lot of others do. That frustration comes from the authority that was actually stripped from the KIGC in the early 90s, where the KIGC would have received that before any one of us up here, and before it would have come from Natural Resources, it would have went straight to KIGC so that they could put their input in. KIGC, I don't think was notified until late on when the MOU was given back to, and MSA was given back to at this forum when I was in there. And I think Gail was there as well. When Tribal Council gets something, a document in here on the same day of Tribal Council gets pretty upset because they didn't get time to go through it. And I feel in talking with the KIGC, same type of thing. And there's people right now that want KIGC to have more authority, and they're not just a committee. They weren't ever just a committee. And yeah, we've morphed into something else since we were recognized in 1986. But now KIGC is just a committee that gives a little bit of input and doesn't really set anything other than the guidelines and the synopsis for seasons. And, we need to listen to our folks that are out there every single day, and the Creighton Jacksons and the Bobby Wilsons and, the folks that have been here a long time that have seen what has happened with the force. Yeah, you know what? We're trying to get them back to the way that they were. But when we don't educate our membership on what's going on, and we talked about the mastication, we just saw the masticators up there, up in that area around Little Yamsey, where they're trying to widen out the roads. That's exactly what Creighton's talking about. And when we go up around into that area of Little Yamsey and Big Yamsey, and there's mastications alongside the road, that's when people start getting upset again. And we just said that we stopped that. Did you know that they're doing that again? Did you know that the masticators are alongside the roads and they're widening that so that fire doesn't move through there?
So are they doing it in the same manner that they were doing it before?
So from what I saw, it looked pretty similar to, they're trying to clean up after it. If they would clean up right away and it wouldn't look as bad, that I think tribal members might look at that different, but they're leaving that set before they actually clean up behind the masticator. If they actually did it at the same time, it would look different. I'll see if I can show you some pictures, but it didn't look good.
Yeah, the mastication, well, the work that I've seen up on Williamson River Road recently, they have cleaned up behind them, and they're not going nearly as deep as they were before. One of the issues that we were having, right, was that the mastication was so deep that if it caught on fire, it would actually kill the roots of all the plants. And so they told us that was done. They actually had returned contract money from that. And as far as KIGC, I have an email from the chairman saying that they understand that the MSA agreement, that the work that needs to be done with KIGC now is in the SPAs, right? The supplemental program agreements.
Supplemental project agreement.
Supplemental project agreements, which is the specific work for specific sites. Okay. We got about 10 minutes. Did you want to?
No, I'm happy to follow whatever process, and provide information in a better way, going forward. And I think maybe we should probably have someone dedicated to doing that, to make sure that we're always providing the information that's asked for, and not running into kind of capacity issues in doing so. So we're happy to do that. And we're, I'm listening. We're making adjustments as we go, and I'm happy to meet and talk about those at any point in time.
Thank you. Councilman Chalkwood, I see you got your hand up and have had it up.
Yeah. This sounds ever familiar. We were told by the Forest Service a long time ago, all they got to do is talk to you. They don't have to do what you say. So how is that being conscious of what we want? I've said it several times in front of this council, in front of the last council. We've got a Section 106 violation we could file a lawsuit on, which could return that forest to us. And it was over 600 documents found in Mr. Ray's office and John Kaiser's office, which didn't allow SHPO to review them or the tribes to review them. So they were basically doing projects without any input. And I don't see why we haven't taken legal action against the Fremont Waimea. Because I do believe it was so in depth that if it was investigated, they would basically have to return that forest to us. That avenue has never been followed, and I've said it over and over and over again. But I agree with Mr. Jackson. It comes down to the people that are here that utilize that, not the people that don't have a dog in a fight. We need tribal members in these positions, and because they care about it. It's their life, it's their family, it's our blood. And so I got to wholeheartedly agree with Mr. Jackson. I don't know where we go from here. To me, this blows everything up. This is our home. We're going to turn around one day and it's all going to be masticated. It's all going to be places for them to ride their ATVs and their motorcycles, and our home's going to be lost for good. So it's about time to listen to the people like Mr. Jackson. So that's about all I had to say. It's just, It's a long, drawn out process. It's really frustrating. So that's about what I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Perry. Go ahead.
Thank you, Perry, Sukecha. I just also wanted to say I appreciate you wanting to disseminate information about the MSA to our people like on the podcast, but I also think that oftentimes isn't really accessible too. And just thinking about our citizens' constitutional right to be in discussion about this, it needs to go to general counsel, just for it to be accessible and to have a real conversation around it. And I also feel like that's like a cultural forum as well that I think will be better for us collectively.
So I certainly think we could put together a special where we share information about this. I think part of the problem is it is complicated because we're talking about 4 or 5 different documents which are written in legal language, and there is so much frustration over the bad relationship with the Forest Service in the past that there isn't much trust. And so people are slow to believe that these are changes for the better. And I get that. So yeah, maybe that's what we need to do is talk about a special upcoming where we just come and we bring documents and we break things down into graphs and answer questions.
Create like a visual and then have like a legal team too to help interpret
Yeah.
what we're reading and seeing.
Yeah, we could do that.
But I think that leadership too, people will trust you more if you offer something like that, or trust us more as a body.
Yeah.
So I would really appreciate that and help.
Okay. So we can, maybe we can talk about that at our work session next week. Go ahead.
I have a comment or some comments too. So I think that could have been avoided on several levels. I appreciate his comments and stuff. But again, it comes up to leadership. We all need to, we can sit up here and say, we need to do this, this, and this, and this. But we need to also support our staff, and we also need to show up to these meetings. We can schedule all the work sessions and meetings we want, but it's going to be up to us to be there and to support staff and work together, not just a handful of us. So, you know, I hear what everybody's saying, but throw it out there too. We all need to participate and be a part of it if we're going to do it. So.
Yeah, I agree. I would ask that if we're going to have a special, that people do their homework, right? Let's actually read the MSA, right? Let's compare it to the MOA, right? And read the two together. If we need to read the Tribal Forest Protection Act, we can do that too. But I really think that council has a responsibility to come to the work session meetings, do the readings, ask the questions, and it's okay to be confused, right? This is difficult stuff and it takes a long time to get a handle on it. And when members are very frustrated and we don't have the answers, that really amps up the pressure. So I think it's good, but I just want to ask the council to do our homework. Okay. Did you have a councilwoman? Did you want to?
I was going to, but I'll just noted. And also, I think that we need like an internal conversation too about this before we start saying things like that. Yep.
That was not that we don't all need to participate, but that was kind of demeaning.
Well, that comes out of frustration too. You know, I realize we have a part-time council, but when there are important meetings, people need to be there or ask questions before they publicly demean others. I honestly believe that. I think that's self-responsibility. And if it was taken as disrespectful, I apologize. It was meant as a statement of fact.
Well, I'd like to answer on that. By not creating a poll of when people are available, that really hamstrings a lot of other members, especially ones that are, a lot of people that are in civic duties, responsibilities, boards, other things in other areas. Not taking that into consideration does make us look like we're not, when I say we, I mean me, I'm talking for myself, that I'm not available for that meeting. Well, I wasn't available for that time slot. So sure, I take it personal because it is personal. And, making that kind of comment, being a part-time council member shows everyone online, well, you know what, they're not there, so they're not speaking for me. And I have to say, you know, through that historical generational trauma that Creighton just, we relived through Creighton, makes me feel like I need to be more out there with my members than it does up here with this council, because I can't be at all the meetings. And, you know, I ran for the position because I wanted to speak with, alongside, and for some of the members that can't be here, that have those thoughts and opinions. So, you know, I just wanted to make sure that I stress that, you know, sometimes our calendars get way out ahead of us. And when there's something that you can't attend, and it happens to all of us, but when it's as important, like you said, as the meeting that we need to have for this special on the MOA and the MSA, because it's really being talked about. And I think it's going to come up at General Council, and people are going to want to throw that on the agenda, because I've already heard that you know, I've read quite a bit, and I am reading on some of the documents that I don't know as well. But just coming right out and kind of throwing us under the bus isn't appreciated.
So also on the general council agenda is the full-time council, right? We have a whole lot of meetings, not just the one that happens to be about the MSA or what's happening in natural resources. And most meetings are not well attended. Most of the work sessions aren't well attended. So what I really hope is that we'll get in place a full-time council so that people don't have to have full-time jobs elsewhere, which take them away from their council responsibilities.
I appreciate that. It's actually the specials, the other meetings, not tribal council, because there's a 15-hour a week or a 15-hour pay period, which I think that's what's in the Constitution that I'm able to meet. It's all the other meetings that get set that maybe you didn't see in your calendar, like the meeting that we're talking about on Monday at 3 o'clock. That's a Zoom meeting. It's those other meetings.
Okay, well, we're past lunch. Appreciate all the candor. Let's take a full hour and resume back at 1:05. Okay, thanks. So, good afternoon, everyone. Looks like we have a quorum. So we are ready to go back to our agenda. And we have Director Rubido on. We do. So Chris, good afternoon. We are ready when you are.
Luckily, see everyone. How's it going? Hope you had a good lunch. So today I putting forth the Trout Unlimited monitoring agreement. It's for the fencing project that will occur at the J.C. Boyle drawdown area. So as they put up fence, we will have monitors there to monitor and protect and preserve our archaeological objects and sacred sites. And so far, they'll just start with one because they'll be doing it in just limited places. You guys have any questions about it?
Any questions for Director Rubido regarding the monitoring agreement? Go ahead.
Chris, I missed where it was going to be.
Sorry,
Where
say
this,
oh.
where is this monitoring going to be?
Oh, so by the J.C. Boyle Reservoir, the riparian area where the drawdown, so it will keep people out. It's kind of, 2 months delayed, but right around that area.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Vice Chair, did you have a question?
Yeah, I do. I was just gonna look for it real quick. On the art form, it says there was a concern regarding the wording regarding state law and no tribal protection. Was that addressed? Because on the art form, there's no way to quickly see if those issues have been addressed. Do you know if that has been, Chris?
No, I didn't, no one brought up that concern to me. So sorry, I'm not sure of the answer. So just also so you know too that the agreement that we use with Ducks Unlimited, we're kind of just using it as a template with all our monitoring agreements. So if there is a concern, we hope that we nip it in the bud before we go forward.
Yeah, General Manager, would you want to? I noticed that too, and it looked like it came from HR. So I was wondering if it had to do with tribal employment versus the state law.
I thought it was due to the law that you recently discussed in SHPO in regards to what happens to those items if and when they are discovered. That's what I thought it was referencing, not necessarily tribal employment law. But I believe Laurel, oh, she was on the line. She's gone now, but that's my understanding, Chairman. It was a concern about that because I know that Ms. Robinson was aware of that conflict with state law.
Chris, how long will this project last? Do you know?
I think it will last till the end of July. But also Trout Unlimited is one of those organizations who will have numerous projects with. One of them also will be the Trout Creek project. So this is just one of the scopes that you guys will be receiving.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I read the contract closely and I didn't see anything that was contradicting the state law that we've been talking about. In fact, I was actually more concerned about what they call a work product, which I'm guessing would be any kind of notes or drawings that would come from our monitors. And I can understand why the State Historical Preservation Officer would need those, but to have those be the property of the Trout Unlimited would be something that I would think we'd want to, talk about next time around at least.
Oh, well, I think what that is pertaining to is if there was an incidental discovery. I don't think they specifically want our CRT notes.
Okay, and I did see that there's a confidentiality clause in there that Trout Unlimited, of course, agrees to keep everything confidential.
Yes. Yeah, and that's like according to state law too.
Okay, are there other questions for the director? Would someone like to make a motion to approve the monitoring agreement for the Trout Unlimited Fencing Project?
So move.
We have a motion from Councilman Lang. Do we have a second?
I'll second. Go ahead. I'll second.
So I have a second from Secretary, so we are ready to vote unless there's any further discussion. I don't see any.
Gail Hatcher.
E,
Terry Choctube.
Yes.
Natalie Ball.
E.
Rose Treetop.
yes.
Ellsworth Lang.
Yes.
I vote yes. Chairman, with your abstention, will be 601.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Chris.
Catch ya. Thanks. Thank you guys for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Okay, I think we're gonna skip over the council reports since that we've got folks that are here. Ms. Miller? Barbara? Ms. Miller? Would you all like to do your presentation now? Okay. All right, well, we have, is it Mr. Williamson or Williams? Mr. Williamson. Well, welcome. Would you like to come up and? Sure.
Yeah, as he said, my name is James Williamson. I'm running for State Representative in District 55, which is right here. And I consider y'all a very important part of that. The tribe is a huge constituency, and I want to find out what you need. I'm not here to tell you what I want you to do. I want you to tell me what you want me to do. Okay? I've got a little thing here. Let y'all see who I really am. I've got a couple ideas that I think would be good for you, but like I said, I'm basically here to collect knowledge about what I could do for you if I get elected. Okay. One thing I've been told is that there's no grocery store out here. Is that true?
We have a small one.
A small one, okay. Yeah, I was talking to a waitress and she said there wasn't any, so I just wanted to be certain because I'd hate to see this stay that way. You guys shouldn't have to drive all the way to Klamath Falls to get something to eat. And there is recently the Biden administration had sent some money out for tribes to see about getting into solar paneling. And I think that'd be something good for you guys. You could get rid of Pacific Power and take care of it yourself, and maybe even sell some of the power back to them. I did print this out off the internet. Maybe you guys can look into it for yourselves. Like I said, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I want to learn from you. Any questions?
So what's your knowledge of like the water issues that are going on in the basin? Do you, are you familiar at all with?
I'm somewhat familiar, yes. My father was a soil scientist with Bureau of Reclamation, and he'd take me along when I was a kid or a teenager because he couldn't get up and down to get the water samples because he had some shrapnel in his back from World War II. I'm somewhat familiar now. I know that there's some conflict between the farms and between conservation, and I'm not as familiar as I'd like to be. I'd be willing to listen to what you guys want.
Thank you. And I apologize. I'm Roberta Frost. Welcome to
Thanks,
our
Roberta,
to our
yeah.
homeland. I'm sorry about that. That was rude of me.
Thank
Not
you.
at all, thanks.
Yeah, and so I spoke to you on the phone. I'm
Yeah.
Clay Dumont, I'm the tribal chairman.
Yes, I remember.
And I do appreciate you reaching out to us and asking to come and introduce yourself. Speaking only for myself, the incumbent is not someone who I feel like represents tribal interests very well.
I don't think
so-
he represents much of anybody but big business, so yeah, okay.
So look forward, right, to learning more. I see, global warming is here. You're talking about solar power.
Yeah.
Obviously, the tribes are very green energy supportive. We do have issues around where some of the green energy projects are going.
Yeah.
That when they come into the homelands, they aren't always talking with us about where there are sites that we really would like them to stay away from.
Of course,
Things that
yeah.
have to do with natural resources, with sacred sites, deer herds, all
Oh,
sorts of
yeah.
different issues. And
Okay.
we don't always feel like we're at the fore in those discussions. So I'm glad to see that these are issues that.
Well,
are-
quite frankly, you should be at the front. And if you take a look at that paper I gave you, it's where you can get some funding for it if you decide to go that way.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Would others like to introduce themselves?
I'm Gail Hatcher, Vice Chair.
Gail.
And I've grown up here in Chiloquin. I went to school here and I see we graduated at the same time. You say that you was raised in Klamath Falls.
Yes, ma'am.
So I would think you'd have a little bit of working knowledge maybe of the Klamath tribes. Can you tell us just a little bit of what you know of the Klamath people?
Well, I know you're made up of the Klamath, Modoc, and Yetkuska tribes. I know you were cheated out of your lands by a Republican a few years ago, which I didn't like at all. And the Forest Service helped you to keep the forests. Other than that, I don't know too much. I know that there's too many people below the poverty line out here, and I'd like to do something about that. The biggest thing you've got going right now is the casino. And I would like to give you whatever other help I could to take care of that. Other than that, I want to learn. I don't know as much as I should. I'll admit that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, Ecclesia James. My name is Natalie Ball. I'm a member at large on our tribal council. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I was very glad when Clayton said I could come out.
Councilman?
Yeah, welcome. I'm Ellsworth Lang. I'm also a member at large for
Yeah.
Klamath Tribal Council. And just interested to see what you have to give us and what you know and what you're trying to learn and see what you can do for the community.
Thanks. I have you guys as number one. I mean, this is 55 covers a lot of open land. It's a lot of unincorporated places. And it's just you guys in Klamath Falls, basically. And it's only half of Klamath Falls. So to me, you are it. And like I said, the name of the thing is representative. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I want you to tell me. I want to be your representative.
Councilwoman?
Hi, my name's Jeannie.
Hi, Jeannie.
Jeannie McNair, and welcome.
Thanks.
Treasurer?
Nice to meet you.
Thanks.
Thank you for being here. Again, I'll echo what everybody else said, just interested in what you have to offer. Thank
Okay.
you. Nice to meet you.
Ms. Rose?
Can you see me?
We can.
Welcome, Mr. Williamson. Thank you for your input, and we thank you for being interested in the Klamath tribes and what you know about us. And if there's more that you would be interested in learning about, Miss Ball is the one that you could contact, and she knows quite a bit about the Klamath tribes and Mr. Choctoot. And if there's anything more that we can do for you, let us know. And thank you for coming today and greeting us.
Well, thanks. I was at a meeting of the Democrats, Klamath County Democrats last night, and they were talking about wanting to have a rally, and they'd like to have it here and hire some local people to work in it. That way they could get the Oregon, the big guys to help us pay for it, to be honest. And the lady from down there contact you if you'd like that.
So, Ms. Treetop is a councilwoman, also a at-large member. Councilman Choctu?
Yeah, good afternoon, Mr. Williamson. Good luck in your endeavor.
All right, thank you.
Hope the best for you. I'm Perry Choctu Jr., council member at large. Good to meet you.
Good to meet you guys.
Yeah, I have another question, Mr. Williamson. Just recently, we got the district lines redrawn, which, makes District 55
Yeah.
where it's at now. What are your thoughts? Because we, just looking at it as a tribe, it divides a lot of our people. We have a
Yeah.
lot of tribal members that live in Klamath Falls that are in another district than,
Yeah,
than what.
I'm not happy about that. I think
So-
it should be, I think the whole of Klamath Falls ought to be part of one.
Okay, so you would support looking at another line draw if it came about?
Yes, ma'am, I would.
Any other questions for Mr. Williams? Do you have any other questions for us?
No, thank you for letting me listening in. I got a couple of ideas from what you're trying to do with trout and all that.
Okay. Well, thank you and appreciate it. And good luck.
All right, thank you, guys.
Mhm.
All right.
All right, Ms. Miller, are you all ready?
Ms. Miller doesn't wish to use the microphone, so somebody will restate what she's asking us if we need. No. I can't whistle.
It's not going to be torn down. That I don't know. Well, I don't see school district. Yeah.
Is it okay is it okay if I paraphrase for the people that are listening, what you told us? Okay. Ms. Miller introduced herself, her English self. Barbara and Mex, Weezer, Candy Uses Arrow, Ray Don, Weezer have all been working on planning a community event. It's tribal community event. Tribal event. Tribal event. Okay. Okay. So she said it's for the people. It's just a tribal event. She said if community wants to come, that's fine, but she's trying to bring us back to how we used to do things. It was. Okay. Yeah, she doesn't want business involved. She wants it to be coming from tribal people. And they're planning a event for Treaty Day 1864. They're planning it for October 19th this year. They're looking at either utilizing the big gym. That would be their preference. If not, the tribal gym over here. The purpose of this gathering is to bring the people together, share in fun, laughter, and our traditional way of life. This will be a social gathering. Is that okay? Okay. Yeah.
What day?
October 19th.
Chairman, I can't hear her.
We're aware, Councilman. We'll paraphrase here in a moment for you. So we'll do that in a moment. I think Secretary was going to try to help the folks online.
So Barbara, are you guys still having your next meeting? Do you want me to announce that? Okay. Okay, so Barbara explained how she received her name. She was named by Warm Springs Elders. She was also received it from Lakota, and then she knows her name in Klamath, and I can't repeat it. It was beautiful though. And then with this gathering, the 4 people that are putting it on are holding a meeting. If anybody wants to come and join and help with the planning, it'll be May 27th at 11:30 at the casino, in that overflow room. So she has asked, for the blessing of council to utilize the name Treaty Day 1864 for this gathering.
Barbara, do you want the Klamath Tribes included in that title? The Klamath Tribes Treaty Day? No? Okay.
So I hope this isn't overly technical, but if it's not an official tribal event, rather than approve, maybe we can endorse? No, I mean the name. Correct. Yes, the usage of the name, not the event. Okay, so would someone like to make a motion to endorse the name Treaty Day 1864 for the planning of the October 19th is the date of the event or the planning meeting? All right. Would someone like to make a motion to endorse the name Treaty Day 1864 for the October 19th, 2024 event?
I'll make
Make the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion from Councilman Lang
I'll second that, please.
and a second from Councilwoman Ball.
Yeah.
Almost, we're going to vote.
Gail Hatcher,
E,
Brandy Hatcher,
Yes.
Perry Chalktoot,
Yes.
Natalie Ball,
E.
Jeannie McNair,
Yes.
Rose Treetop,
Abstain.
Ellsworth Lang.
Yes.
I vote yes. Chairman, with your abstention. 702.
Okay, motion carries. Ms. Miller, thank you. You've always been so good to me. I just appreciate you, and I'm so glad that we've got you in the building now and not out on that bus. So Thank you. Looking forward to this event. Okay, I think we're up to council reports. So the chairman's committee, there's a couple of documents, a chairman's report. I don't know if everybody, I think Secretary sent him an email. Yes, the Molly from Denali docs. And I think most folks know that this is a second project that comes about, it's a PBS project. Molly from Denali is something that was produced for a cartoon show that I think has already been produced and is out. This is a follow-up to that. It's a request for permission to create a game. When the document first came to us, I at least had some concerns because I thought that there might be profit making going on as a result of the production of this game. And so we had a meeting yesterday with the Culture and Heritage Department and Culture and Heritage Committee. And another document came forward, which you also have from Larry Witt, who is the secretary of the Culture and Heritage Committee, where she has cited some language, right, from the company pointing out that this is nonprofit. There is no profit being made off of it. Specifically, this program is a free download on the PBS app, and as mentioned above, uses the images, words, and stories that were approved for the animated episodes in the previous contract. All games developed by GBH or PBS can be downloaded either to a computer or phone. All the games on these apps are free to the user. So I wanted to ask if council was ready to approve the signing of this contract. Any comments, questions? Okay, well, would someone like to make a motion? Go ahead, Councilman.
I'll make that motion to approve the contract.
Okay,
I'll second.
so we have a motion and a second. We're ready for a vote.
Who firsted? Gail Hatcher,
Abstain.
Brandy Hatcher,
Yes.
Perry Chalktoot,
I'm gonna abstain.
Natalie Ball,
E.
Jeannie McNair,
No.
Rose Treetop,
Abstain.
Ellsworth Lang.
Yes.
I vote yes.